It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another one. We're back to talk about The Walking Dead. This one's gonna be a video related to The Walking Dead universe in general. We're gonna be covering a very popular theory or a very popular topic. This one's actually got a lot of attention recently. That topic being whether we're gonna see an all-out corporate war at the end of the main show, which would be at the end of season 11, and whether we're gonna see a real concept of worlds colliding in the Walking Dead universe. This topic actually started getting a lot of attention recently because of the introduction of two huge organizations in the Walking Dead universe, one being the Commonwealth, who were actually just introduced in the Walking Dead TV show at the end of season 11, who have a very large and capable military, and another organization that's much more militarized, and that organization is the Civic Republic Military, or the CRM, which is the group responsible for Rick's disappearance, and the group that we actually learned a little bit more about on The Walking Dead's third spin-off, which is called World Beyond. Now, I did a video recently where I talked about the difference between Commonwealth and the CRM. I have some of the main points on the screen here, but just to briefly tell you what the main difference is, the CRM is much more organized, and they are in many ways a military government, and their main goal is do experiments and find a potential cure for the zombie virus. So because of that, this group is very secretive. Like I said, they are militarized, so they have many more military personnel than they do have civilians, if any. On the other hand, Commonwealth is much more like a generic community that you would find in a post-apocalyptic setting, but they are still government-based. But they have much more civilians than they do military personnel, but still they do have a pretty good-sized military. But if we just look at the CRM and Commonwealth and have them go to war, it's pretty obvious to me who would win: the CRM. And the reason for that is because the CRM, like I said, is a military organization, where Commonwealth, as great as their military might be, it's not comparable to the CRM because their scopes are just different. Someone actually brought up a good point in the video I did, where they actually compared this situation with what we saw in The Last of Us 2, saying that the Commonwealth is like the Washington Liberation Front, whereas the Fireflies are like the CRM. So if we just have these two main groups going head to head, like I said, it would be a very one-sided fight, and I think that the CRM will win that fight. It might be an unpopular opinion, but that's what I think. And at the same time, I don't think that it would be interesting enough. I think if we just have Commonwealth and CRM facing off, it's not as interesting to hardcore Walking Dead fans. And I don't think that most of them would be satisfied, only because it doesn't really tie into the main show or the universe in general. These two groups were just introduced, so I think it would be a cop-out to have them go to war and have that be the main ending of the main show, where most of the story involved in the universe was not about them. So that gets me to my next point, and the next big theory that's out there, which is that at the end of season 11, which is gonna be the end of the Walking Dead TV show series, we're not only gonna see CRM and Commonwealth going head to head, but also we're gonna have a mega crossover, or a union between all the different Walking Dead properties, comparable to an Avengers style crossover, where we're gonna see survivors from the Walking Dead's original show, survivors from the planned Walking Dead movies, survivors from Fear the Walking Dead, and survivors from The Walking Dead's third spin-off World Beyond coming together and going to war. Before I proceed, this might also be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think that, one, that's a good idea, and two, that's what they want to do. And the reason I say that is these 5 points. One is the Fear the Walking Dead story. If they are planning to have all of the stories merged together in one epic final battle, they're gonna have to end Fear the Walking Dead when this happens. If they don't do this, the only way out would be to have it so that Fear the Walking Dead survivors can realistically transition back into Fear the Walking Dead after The Walking Dead season 11 is done, which I don't think is an easy task. The next thing is the Daryl and Carol 4th spinoff and how that transition is going to happen. Assuming that this all-out corporate war happens, how is that going to tie into the Daryl and Carol 4th spinoff? And how would that realistically work? Unless they have the epic final battle go down and then afterwards have it such that Daryl and Carol go on their own into the 4th spinoff, similar to Fear the Walking Dead survivors going on their own as well, which doesn't really make a lot of sense if you really think about it. The next point is the Walking Dead movie and the story involved in that. If they do truly want to have an epic final battle, it would make more sense for that to be in the movies than in season 11 or the final season of The Walking Dead. If they don't do that, if they do in fact want to have that in the show and not in the movie, then how is that transition from the movie to season 11 going to work? If you do want to bring Rick back into the story in the final battle. The reason I bring that up is because when season 11 airs, we probably would not have seen the movie yet. So that's gonna complicate things in terms of how the movie is gonna go. Speaking of Rick though, the next thing that wouldn't really work quite as well is Rick's comic story. I'm still a strong believer that they are going to bring in Rick's comic storyline into the TV universe in the movies. It might be remixed a little bit, but I do still think that it's gonna follow the same trend or the same basic plot line. And that's not really going to work out if they bring in the final battle concept into it. And the last point is Michonne's story. How is Michonne's story going to work? We know at this point that Michonne is following Rick's trail, and most fans are waiting for her to be reunited with Rick in the movies. So are they gonna have that happen and then Michonne and Rick return? And would that really make sense? I mean, if they wanted to do that, wouldn't it make more sense for them to keep Michonne where she was, have Rick reunite with everyone in the final season, and then have everything go down that way? So because of these 5 points, I don't think that it's first realistic, and second, something that the showrunners are planning to do as far as merging all of these properties together and ending everything in an epic final battle. Now, with all of that said, assuming that we are going to see this epic final corporate war between the CRM and our Walking Dead survivors, how is that gonna go? Well, if we take a look at all of our survivors, or the ones that matter, looking from a Walking Dead movie perspective, the survivors that are most likely going to be involved are Rick, of course, maybe Jadis, possibly Michonne, and maybe Heath. From a Walking Dead main show perspective, the survivors we're going to see are Daryl and Carol, Negan, Ezekiel and Jerry, Magnus Group, Eugene and Stephanie, Stephanie being the girl that Eugene was communicating with, who is from Commonwealth, Maggie and Masked Survivor, as well as the allies that they have with them. From Georgie's community, we have Commonwealth soldiers and Mercer being the military lead at the Commonwealth. And then from a Fear the Walking Dead perspective, the survivors we're gonna have are Morgan, Alicia, John and June, Victor and Daniel, Althea and Isabel, Isabel being the CRM soldier that showed up in Fear the Walking Dead, and also the survivors from the Settlers group, which is the communities that Virginia is leading. Now, the only reason I brought Isabel in here is because we might actually see Isabel return to Fear the Walking Dead or the movies, one or the other, but she's definitely going to be back around at some point. And then from a Walking Dead World Beyond survivors perspective, we have Felix, Huck, Hope, Iris, Elton, and Silas, and the Portland Colony survivors. For those of you that don't know, the CRM actually had an alliance with not only the campus colony of Omaha, which is the community that we saw on World Beyond, but also another community or colony, Portland, which we don't really know much about. Now, one thing I want to say in brackets here is that not everyone from World Beyond, as far as the main characters, are going to survive We do know that it's a limited 2-season series, but recently there was an announcement that only one of the teens are going to survive. So basically one person from Hope, Iris, Elton, and Silas. And we don't know whether Felix and Huck are gonna make it out or not, but I've put them in the list anyway for now. And from a CRM or Civic Republic military perspective, we have Elizabeth Kublek, who's one of the representatives that we know, the only character that we can define as a leader for CRM, and also we have the CRM soldiers themselves. Obviously not all of these survivors are gonna matter in a war as big as this war. So realistically, the people that are going to be involved are Rick. They could work it out so that he is the inside man. And he could, alongside the other survivors, break the CRM not only from the outside, but also from the inside. He could find out about their vulnerabilities and try to break them apart from inside out, as well as having that corporate warfare storyline. Other than that, we have Maggie. The reason Maggie is important is because she is the connective tissue between our survivors and the allies from Georgie's community. So if Maggie can connect the survivors to those communities and those survivors, you have a better chance to go against CRM. This is where Commonwealth militia come in. So all of the allies that we talked about will be partnered with Commonwealth and their soldiers and Mercer. Now, looking back at the comics, Mercer comes from a military background, is a former Marine. So, if anyone would know how to organize a military to go against a large military organization like CRM, it would definitely be Mercer, as well as other Commonwealth soldiers who, some of which used to actually be military personnel and law enforcement officers. So you have a better chance that way. Then we get to Isabel. Isabel, much like Rick, knows about the CRM and their vulnerabilities. And she could, that being if she switches over, be the person that maybe alongside Rick himself tries to break the CRM from the inside. Other than them, the settlers, survivors, and the rangers that they have could also help out in some shape or form in this corporate warfare. And obviously, last but not least, the Portland colony survivors could also help out. Now, we don't know much about them. We don't know whether they're a military community, just like the CRM, or a settlement, just like Alexandria, Omaha Colony, and so on. And looking at it now, we can see that it's a much closer and more fair fight between the two sides. And that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover in this video. But I'm interested to know your thoughts and opinions. Share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below and let me know what you think about everything discussed in this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to share and smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.